You're watching the American on ESPN+. It's a rivalry in volleyball that dates back to 1980. Tonight, the 60th all-time match between the UAB Blazers and the Memphis Tigers. What's up? What's happening, everybody? Welcome inside El Barone Fieldhouse on the campus of the University of Memphis. I'm Matt Infield. Marshall looking for Henderson this time, and guess who? Smock and Abby Jones team up for that double block. All Blazers early, 6-1 here in this first set. Smock, a freshman from Eastern Massachusetts, first year in Birmingham. Head coach Betsy Freeberg said she's starting to understand the concepts that are required to play at this level, but she has done a great job in the middle of the floor, and she is on fire at the net to start this one. Rack up another one for her, and Cherie Lindsay calls a quick timeout. UAB on a 7-1 run to start the night. It's freshman Emsley Vennard out of Cincinnati on the service for the Owls. Hampton on the receiving end at first for Memphis. Back over on their side. Fight for it at the net. Sydney Marshall kept it alive for a moment. Still in play. And great touch that time and placement by another one of those sensational freshmen for Memphis, Brianna Washington, with her first kill of the night, and it's 3-3 in the first set. Mia Reese in her third season at UAB, coming off a 6-kill, 11-dig performance in the loss to Florida Atlantic over the weekend. Smock just dug out by Hoskins. Doesn't matter because the aforementioned Reese with the fastball, middle of the floor. Nothing Memphis could do about that. 23-12 UAB. They are rolling in this first set. Fun start to this one in Memphis. Florida Atlantic with a 15-14 lead as you get a look at first-year Memphis head coach Cherie Lindsay. Previously at Prairie View A&M. Really successful last two seasons with that program, going 13-3 in the SWAC each of the last 2 years before being tasked with building this Memphis program back up. Talked to her earlier this week. She said some things are really starting to click with this team, not asking them to be perfect, but defensively she likes what she's seen, and the serving is an area she says has been much more competitive for this young Tiger squad, as that one sent into the net by Henderson. Give the point to the Owls, 16-14. That's a Memphis team whose season changed when their star player, Amanda Hart, went down with an injury after their match with Ole Miss in the middle of September. Florida Atlantic keeps it alive for the moment. And out of play, that's going to be a Memphis point. Hart still second in the conference in hitting percentage. And as of a couple weeks ago, was still in the top 3 in total kills, despite not having played for a month at that point. So just a really difficult player for any team to replace, but especially one with as much youth as Memphis. But Cherie Lindsay seeing progress from a lot of her freshmen. Nasty stuff that time by Kirsten Bevel, the Orlando native, as she racks up her first kill of the night. 17-15 Florida Atlantic. Zoe Winford will serve this one up for the Owls and send it right into the net. Easy as it comes from Memphis, 17-16. Edison Rodriguez out. Another one of those freshmen, Mandy Lawson, into the game for the Tigers. And she will serve it up. Dug out nicely by Hart that time, and then hammered home by Sydney Marshall. Not known for her attacking, but 17th kill of the season for Marshall, and it is tied at 17 again, as Florida Atlantic will call a quick timeout. Florida Atlantic up by 4 earlier in this set. Memphis come back to tie it at 17 apiece. Mentioned Cherie Lindsay in her first season leading Memphis. It is quite the opposite on the Florida Atlantic side. Year number 14 at the helm for Fernanda Nelson. As mentioned earlier in the broadcast, recently picked up win number 200 as the head coach of Florida Atlantic, as you see her in the middle right there. now up to 204 wins in her time in Boca Raton. Second in program history, only trailing Jody Brown at 225. So if you do the math, the Owls have a strong end to this season and then have another good year next year. She could very well be the program's all-time leader in wins at some point in 2026. Real joy to talk to her earlier this week. She says she's having a ton of fun with this team right now. Wonderful group of girls. And the goal right now is just to keep getting better and better each week. In the conference championship game last season, their last conference championship in volleyball was back in 2005 when they were in the Atlantic Sun Conference. Timeout over. Both teams back on the floor. Lawson on the service. Dugout. Send it over to the left side. Couple Owls both go for it. More confusion. Hart just going to send it over. Marshall to Hoskins again. Too much heat on that one, and Memphis takes an 18-17 first set lead. If you're Cherie Lindsay, you got to love, one, that connection from Marshall to Hoskins on display in this first set, and also the resiliency from her young squad. Hart denied at the net. Credit Marshall, and I believe that was Henderson, on the combo block that time for Memphis, and they go up by 2. And it's another timeout for Florida Atlantic. Memphis on a 4-0 run as they look to win the first set for their 4th consecutive match. Now, as mentioned before, they only won one of the previous 3. That was against Alabama A&M last Wednesday. Had Tulsa on the ropes here a week ago tonight, winning the first 2 sets before the Golden Hurricane came back to win 3-2. And Sunday, victorious in the first set against North Texas before the Mean Green came back to win the next 3 and win the match 3-1. Both of these teams tied in the conference standings right now. Florida Atlantic tied with North Texas and Wichita State at 5-3 for 5th in the conference. Memphis, one of 3 teams currently 1-7 in the American. The other 2, Temple and Tulane. And talking with Cherie Lindsay earlier this week, I just asked her about the balance of trying to develop a young team for the future, but also wanting to hopefully make the conference tournament in Tampa. She said both things can be true at the same time. She said there are tangible things, obviously, they want to focus on going into the spring and then into next fall, but she thinks that if they start winning and maybe a couple other teams fall off, they still have a chance to get there, as Libby Ashline's trying to extinguish those hopes, especially in this first set. Nasty kill that time by the junior middle blocker, makes it 19-18. And now she'll serve it up. Schlueter on the receiving end. Dug out that time by Winford. Hart. Middle of the floor, diving dig that time by Schlueter. Henderson. Was it inbounds? It was out of bounds. Point to Florida Atlantic. We'll tie it up at 19. Really good back and forth volleyball here in this first set on a Friday night in Memphis. Ashline again. Marshall to Henderson. And Henderson with the kill that time. And in a back and forth first set, Memphis takes the lead again, 20-19. Jediah Henderson will check out, one of 3 captains on this Memphis squad this year, along with Abigail Schlueter and Amanda Hart. Maddie Bach, 2-time American Setter of the Week, checks into the game, and she will serve this one up for the Tigers. A little bit of an awkward angle for Hart there. Send it right back to her. Off a couple of Tigers, great diving effort by Lawson, but to no avail. And we're tied again at 20. Fernanda Nelson trying to get her ladies organized. It's going to be Vennard, the freshman out of Cincinnati, who easily leads his team in assists, 444 of the season before tonight. Dug out by Hampton for Memphis, and then Florida Atlantic somehow keeps it alive. Send it back to the Memphis side. Marshall to Hoskins. That violation is going to go the way of the Tigers. This thing's like a seesaw, back and forth, 21-20 Memphis. There are no runs to report because it's one team punch and the other team counter punches. Really fun stuff. Marshall sends it over. Looking for Hartman. Can Memphis save it? They do. Schlueter, great backward sliding effort. They get it over and keep it alive. Hartman again, and into the net. And there's a 2-0 run. 22-20 Memphis. Here's Marshall again. Get it to their superstar, Hart. Good decision. As she comes up with the kill, makes it 22-21, and Olivia Hart living up to her billing so far. 5 kills in this first set. The first thing when head coach Fernanda Nelson mentioned her earlier this week that she said was absolute superstar. That one a little too far, and the point goes to Memphis. And anytime you can get a service error from the best server on the team, you will take it if you're the opposition. Hart would certainly qualify as that for Florida Atlantic, but misplay that time, and it's 23-21 Memphis. It's going to be Hoskins to send it over. After a brief discussion with Cherie Lindsay and the referees. All good. Here is the freshman sensation. Off a Tiger. Keep it in play. Looking for Tate. Tate perfectly placed. And Memphis on the verge of winning this first set after trailing early. It's 24-21 Tigers. Set point on the way. And a whistle. All good. Hoskins sends it right into the net. And the Owls survive for another point, 24-22. Going to be one of the Tennessee natives for Florida Atlantic, Isabel Northam from Thompson Station. Try to keep the Owls rolling in this first set. Marshall looking for Tate. Tate! Inbounds! Set one goes to Memphis. Jasmine Tate with a clutch kill for the Tigers, and after trailing early, they come back to win the first set 25-22. We'll have second set action for you in just a moment. You are watching the American on ESPN+.